Yo, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. So, back to this long list, Satan's Little Season, Preterism versus contextless, cherry picked craziness. What else can I say about it? So, let's have a look what we're doing today. Matthew 24, 1 to 3, and then all the way down to, on its own, Matthew 34. Matthew 24, 34, sorry. So let's have a look at Matthew 24, verse 1. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. Why are disciples showing him buildings of the temple? Well, Jesus were in temple with Pharisees, woe to ye Pharisees, you hypocrites, ye generation of vipers, you shed out blood at prophets. And he says this as well: behold, your house is left unto you desolate. House meaning temple. So they knew when Jesus said this that they were talking about the temple. This is also Old Testament language for judgment. When God judges Israel many times in Old Testament, this is a type of language you get. For instance, in Jeremiah 6:8, be thou instructed, O Jerusalem, lest my soul depart from thee, lest I make thee desolate, a land not inhabited. So we've got Old Testament language. So when disciples are showing it building at the temple, is because they're in shock, what this? You know what I mean? These buildings. So then Jesus answers them and says, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. All these things regarding to your temple, and all these things shall come upon this generation, all things that have been spoke about in Matthew 23. All these things, not to be confused with Matthew 24:34. See, Jesus hadn't done his Olivet Discourse yet, and he hadn't answered when we get to Matthew 24:3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world. See, he ain't got to Olivet Discourse yet. So all these things are separate from all these things that come in Olivet Discourse. You follow me? And back to these questions what disciples asked. Tell us when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world. Tell us when shall these things be literally gets answered in Olivet Discourse, along with these other questions. It's prophecy, judgment and temple being destroyed is prophecy, as well as in prophesying the signs of his coming and the end of the world. He actually answers that first question when he says, no one knows the day nor the hour, only the Father in heaven. But what I'm starting to glean from looking at all these passages and what these Satan's Little Seasoners are saying and that, I think they're mistaking judgment of Israel with Second Advent. And when you take it all in context and read it properly, and you start to understand that, they're all prophetic. Obviously, another 40 years or so before Jerusalem was destroyed. So it's all prophetic, but don't all happen at the same time. Right, so let's look at Matthew 24:34. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. So the Satan's Little Season view and the Preterist view all rely on this word generation. The they take it to mean that at face value in English that this generation means this generation that's alive with you while you were saying this generation. You know what I mean? But we have, we have to look at other things that are in contradiction to that. You know, so like in Matthew 21:43, therefore I say unto you, the kingdom of God shall be taken from you and given to the nation, bringing forth the fruits thereof. But so kingdoms took away from Israel for a time, and it's being open to Gentiles. In Matthew 23, the last thing that he says, for I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth till ye shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. The Jews didn't accept him then. They didn't accept him when he was crucified and rose again. They didn't accept him when Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD, and they still don't accept him to this day. And then we go to Luke 17. I've brought this up several times. This is a killer for it, you know. Then he said to his disciples, the time is coming when you will long to see one of the days of the Son of Man, but you will not see it. Can only be talking to when he returns, his second return, because his disciples were with him all the way through his ministry, his death, his burial, his resurrection. They were with him for all that. They saw him go up in clouds back to heaven. You know, so the days of the Son of Man that they will not see can only be a future event. They won't see it. So we have to look into this word generation, because it's a Greek word, geneia, translated into English. Now, in Greek it can have multiple meanings, whereas in English it's pretty much face value. So if you look at this, the most commonest Greek word rendered generation is geneia, G1074. If you look at Matthew 24:34, generation is G1074. It is a noun describing the class of those that have been begotten. Thus it can refer to the whole of mankind living at one time, or successive waves of a genealogy, that means a descent, or even an age. Look at some of these meanings. Fathered, birth, nativity, that which has been begotten, men of the same stock, a family, several ranks of a natural descent, the successive members of a genealogy. Metaphor, a race of men very like each other in endowments, pursuits and character. In a bad sense, a perverse race. The whole multitude of men living at the same time. An age, i.e. the time ordinarily occupied by each successive generation, a space of 30 to 33 years. If we look at, in a bad sense, a perverse race, we see that in Matthew 23, ye generation of vipers. That means a generation that have been begotten from Satan, basically. Now, this one, the several ranks of natural descent, is the way you need to take this word generation. Because the context of this verse, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled, means that all the things that I've prophesied, until they're fulfilled, this generation shall not pass away. The generation that is alive at the time that all these things have been fulfilled. I mean, I could go into massive detail on, you know, why you want to add Son of Perdition. You know, in fact, we're doing a stream on Saturday on Flatzoids. We'll be going into these things in great detail, but I just wanted to deal with these verses I was given. This generation in context is the future generation. I've already shown you contradictions to it being the generation alive at the same time as Jesus. So you have to look into the different meanings of the Greek word generation, not the English. So again, there's no preterism or Satan's little season in this verse either. It's really dealing with scriptures in a poor way. You're just looking at the word and taking it at face value. There's no context. There's no looking at other verses that disagree with that. I mean, come on. Luke 17 disagrees that disciples see him coming on his second advent, and yet you're going to come and push that this generation means the one that Jesus is talking to. It can't be. Bible doesn't have contradictions. If there's a contradiction, the fault is at you don't understand it properly. Anyway, I hope that helped everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. God bless. See you on the next one.